Welcome back. So in this one, I want to give you some exercises for how to break out of maybe a mental rut or resistance or a lack of creativity. And so we'll just go through a couple exercises that I tend to do when this happens, and unfortunately it happens more than I'd like to admit. But basically there's a few things you can do. One of which is simple shapes or 3D shapes, and really not even 3D shapes. So they can be, I like to do prisms, and so it's a little bit of a imagined perception of perspective. Keep in mind these do not need to look precise and clean. So maybe you're looking at mine and thinking they look clean. Maybe you're looking at mine and thinking they look horrible and messy. And that's okay. That's not the point either way. It's just to simply draw some things that are relatable in space on this blank white canvas. You know, the canvas itself is just, too much white, right? There's just too much open possibilities and things you could do, things you might do. And so I think what stuff like this does, it just sort of gives us a building block approach to putting things on the screen and saying, well, it could be anything. You can bend these as well. Right? There's no right or wrong there, but all of a sudden now you're just having fun. You're just playing around with concepts, drawing whatever pops into your mind, and just playing around with these shapes. So I obviously like to do lots of cylinders. They don't have to be cylinders. It can be like pyramids, triangles, and you could start with just basic flat ones first, right? You don't have to go for 3D shapes right away. In fact, another one is, or I'll call this one and the same. So I'm going to call this just doodling, right? So doodles to me can be even this. I used to do this a lot as a kid. Probably should do more of it these days. And so I just make these random patterns. And again, what I like about this is there's no idea of right and wrong. There's no, I'm trying to make this thing and it has to look good. It has to look a certain way, or I'm, gonna get upset with the process and say, well, I'm just not feeling it today, right? How many times have you said or done that, right? And the starting and stopping that is so sort of detrimental to you being productive, is sort of, or maybe that's the wrong word. I think it's destructive to you being productive is what I was trying to say basically. But just do this, and again, just whatever random little doodle and design. You'll see a lot of people like these ones, right? And they'll sort of connect these together. So they'll put like one here, and just keep going and going. This is great for hand-eye coordination, but also just gets you used to making marks on the screen in a non-judgmental way, right? Not in a way where, so like if you go to draw a character, you're like, well, it's got to look like this character, and oh, I see all these other people do it, and they do it so well, and well, I want to learn from them, but then you start making maybe unfair comparisons, right? There's a whole plethora of reasons why that can cascade downward into being less creative and more judgmental. So that's the first one I want you to try. Just random shapes, doodles, designs. You can make series of ovals, and you can practice varying those up, right? There's just all sorts of ways you could look at this. Just have fun with it. Just make some marks. So that's the first one that I wanted to share. So the next one is to start with a line, and then don't pick up the stylus or pencil or pen, and just keep making one continuous line. And so you can do this as a scribble, and you could refine the scribble into something. That's another activity that people will do. It's sort of like a Rorschach test, where you get in here and you just say, okay, maybe this is an eye, maybe this is a nose. And I don't think you have to stick to every line, but some people get really good at doing that. And I've done that in the past, and that can be fun as well. But I'm actually going to take that a different way and say, well, if I wanted to draw an arm, for instance, I'm going to draw this arm. So my first pass usually looks pretty bad. There's an arm. And then I'm going to keep going. And just sort of overlap. I'm going to get the definition of the anatomy, the different muscle groups, or whatever it is I'm envisioning. You don't have to do an arm, and it doesn't have to be, again, in comparison to what I'm doing. That's not the point. It's just continuously making every single design of the element that you want without picking up the pen. I don't know why this is interesting, but it is. It's just a very creatively charging experience. And I could sort of just keep going from there. Maybe add the chest and the bottom of the arm, and I can pass through some of these previous areas. But see how I'm trying to get every little detail that I'm imagining for this particular pose of an arm, all while keeping the pen on the page. And there we go. So there's my arm. And I'm actually pretty happy with that one. But you can just tell there's lots of energy there. And I think that's what it really ties into, is that, you know, we get caught up in doing things that are very structural, like, you know, think of the exercise before. These shapes are pretty structural. This is all energy. So it gives you a little bit of an awareness of that. Now, finally, the last one, and there's plenty more you could do, but I just want to give you 3 today to get you going, and I wanted this to be a nice short lesson that you can be actionable about, that you can put into place and get working on today. And so the next one is to draw a random shape, or 2 or 3, and then fit a character in there. Now, you don't have to do a character. If you want, you could fit whatever you want in there. But I like to use this for character poses. I think it's really kind of tricky to do. So usually I'll start with, you know, wherever I think the head might be of the character, and then I relate that to maybe a shoulder, an arm. So shoulder here, upper arm here, forearm here, and then here I'm going to take this and say, well, what if this was just foreshortened? I'm going to use fist just because it'll be easier to explain and not confuse you a whole lot. But here's where it gets tricky, is like, how do I squeeze in a body here? Well, I got to push back into space and then maybe bring a leg up and forward. I'll just attach a foot, and I'll go outside of the shape just a little bit. I don't think it's that important that you confine everything. And I could squeeze a leg way back into the distance here if I had to. All of a sudden I get this foreshortened kind of dramatic pose, and it's not perfect, nothing is, but it's a start, and it's a pose that I otherwise would not have drawn. So again, it's that activity of contorting the person or pose into this thing. Let's try another one. And so I guess I'll place the head here, shoulder here, tuck the arm back here, bring it down this way, and I almost feel like a leg would be kind of turned this way, almost like they're sitting Indian style but leaned over, which might be kind of near impossible for most people, but not everybody. And I'm just going to tuck this arm way back here into space. Again, I'm going to break the barrier again with that foot. And then, I don't know, I guess I could bring a leg up here and then back. So again, almost like they're sitting Indian style. Bit forced, but I think it works. And then with this one, let's see. Now, an easy one would be, it's just a person that's sitting there with their arms folded, right? But that's too easy. And plus we want to get if we're going for a whole body, we want to get a whole body in there. So let's say, you know what, I'm just going to take an easy out right here. I'm going to say this looks like a big fist coming out towards camera, like that. And then I can recess the parts of the body back like this. I can bring this arm up and over the head. I don't know why they'd be doing that, but let's try it anyways. Punching and swinging a sword, maybe grabbing a sword off their back. And then for here, you know, obviously I can keep doing the thing where I bring the legs up, but I also don't want to be too repetitive. You know, let's just bring one leg up I see that making a little more sense. Like they're stepping up on something. And let's take this one and go way back into space down to here. So again, these aren't meant to say, well, look at these great poses that I would refine and come up with something. But what it does is it challenges me to draw in a way that I wouldn't have drawn instinctually. I think that a lot of times when we're staring at the canvas and we are wondering what to create, the resistance we're feeling is because, we're a little bit unsure and we've done so many things and we don't know where the next best step might be. So when we don't know where to step, we stagnate, we stop. And the real reality is that to keep progressing, you have to keep taking the next step. Generating movement. Movement doesn't always come naturally, but if you can utilize tactics and techniques to give yourself that little nudge, and I think that's where this stuff really thrives. It nudges you to just make the next step, and you might find something cool out of it. So for instance, as I'm looking at this, these don't seem apparently great to me. I actually think I could make this one look pretty cool as a finished drawing. I really do. I would need to tweak it a bit. But what if I ignore all of it as an entirety and I just look inside specific areas? Well, if I do that, I actually see that I really like the shapes right there for that arm. That I could totally use that as a good foreshortened arm by itself. So what I mean by that is, like, instead of throwing out the whole thing going, none of that worked, I'm deleting it all. Remember that all of this is mileage. And even some of the little pieces are teaching you something that you might not be that aware of at the moment. And that's pretty powerful as well. So for instance, as I look at this leg, that leg right there actually is a good series of shapes. I don't know. Did I learn from that? I think so. Maybe. It definitely generated some mileage towards what works and what doesn't. I can look at this foreshortened arm and go, well, it really could be a lot better if I just made the forearm higher there. Change the shape of the deltoid a bit. I could analyze that and I could adjust that, bring one of the fingers out more, and I could turn it into something better and better. And that's where mileage sort of starts to work anyways, because you draw enough things and eventually the shapes start to make sense and you're not throwing out as much that you normally would have. After a while, you get to a point where you look at a pose like this and you go, I could totally make that work. I mean, yeah, it's a bad pose, but I know what's bad because I've, again, established enough mileage and enough of that momentum and motivated work, even when I wasn't feeling like it, that I found the hidden gems along the way and I connected the dots, so to speak. So that's really it. Hopefully this has got you motivated to want to draw something today. That was the goal of it. Let me know what you think. I would love to see your doodles and your sketches. And so just to reiterate, random doodles, shapes, forms, whatever you want to do. Overlapping forms are great. Continuous line technique, just to draw something that's continually one line. I think that's a lot of, it's going to spark your energy. And then drawing characters within a shape and letting go of this idea that they have to be perfect and clean and wonderful and beautiful. That's not what this is about. So enjoy your studies, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Good luck with the art, and bye for now.